Looking deeper at what Tesla was getting at, what I found wasn't numerology or mysticism. It was something that bridges the gap between hard science and consciousness itself. Now, as a former physicist, I'm always inclined to say, show me the math. But then I had a dream that showed me how you can unlock the secret of 369 today. And that means things are going to get weird. Now, I have to lay some groundwork here because I don't know how much you know already. If this is your 10th video on 369, skip ahead to where I talk about the intersection of mathematics and sacred geometry, or where I share an utterly fascinating dream and basically the meaning of life, the universe, and everything. The pattern of these numbers that Tesla was likely referring to shows up in something called vortex mathematics and digital root reduction. The simplest way to put it is when you take any number and reduce it to a single digit, you get what's called its digital root. For example, 360 degrees in a circle reduces to 9 because 3 plus 6 plus 0 equals 9. 24 hours in a day reduces to 6 because 2 plus 4 equals 6. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If you start with 1 and keep doubling, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, and reduce each to its digital root, you get 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, and then it repeats. You get a looping pattern, 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, and over again. But notice what's missing, 3, 6, and 9. They never appear in that doubling sequence. Now try something different. Start with 3 and keep doubling it. 3, 6, 12, 24, 48, 96, 192. Reduce those to their digital roots and you get 3, 6, 3, 6, 3, 6. It just oscillates between 3 and 6 and never enters that other pattern. And 9 is even stranger. So no matter what you multiply 9 by, the digital root always returns to 9. So 9 times 3 is 27, 2 plus 7 is 9, and so on into infinity. Go ahead and pause the video and try it yourself. So what I'm trying to demonstrate here is that mathematically 3, 6, and 9 operate in a completely separate way from the other numbers 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, and 8 do. So why are multiples of 3 so darn impressive? First, let's hone in on my favorite number, 9. It shows up a ton in my life and in my dreams. I'm curious too, what number shows up in a lot of your dreams or day to day? Comment and let me know. Let's see which number is the most popular with you all. So, with 9, you start to notice something almost unsettling. It shows up everywhere. In astrology, there were traditionally 9 heavenly bodies. In religion, there are 9 choirs of angels. In human biology, 9 months of gestation and 9 Enneagram personality types. Even in philosophy, the Greeks spoke of the 9 muses, the source of all creativity and inspiration. And in ancient Egypt, the Ennead, or 9 deities, represent the structure of the entire universe. And most numinous to me is the multiplication of patterns you can literally see in fractals, like the Sierpinski triangle. Tesla might have been onto something about this 369 thing being the key. The most striking evidence to me is where mathematics and sacred geometry intersect, but not because of how the math adds up, but really because my dreams and many dreams from clients who know nothing about any of this stuff have shown sacred geometry patterns over and over. I myself have had several dreams with pyramids in various configurations. One recent dream I had showed how pyramids can be imagined in the mind using certain colors and arranged in a specific pattern in order to do what I consider cord cutting or shadow work on steroids. You can actually get that technique by joining my free school community. And this is my shout out to the good folks in Washington State working with Columbia Generating Station and Hanford. You're doing a great job. I've had dreams with various polygons too, mainly the 9-pointed nonagon, also called the enneagon, and the 6-pointed hexagons. Let me share one of those and why this dream was truly magical. And look, I actually didn't know any of this when I had this dream. I specialized in nuclear physics, not this stuff. But rabbit holing was worth it, and I'm about to knock your 3D socks off with this dream. And also, this dream wasn't just about me, it was a gift for all of us. So, really try to see yourself in it. I came across some bushes with shadows under them. I looked down in the soil and there was the most beautiful hexagonal bipyramid, purple and white swirled gem. Longer triangles on top, smaller on bottom. I grabbed it, fascinated. I held it up to the bushes and it shined light into the shadows. I thought how magical of a moment this whole thing was. Now let's break down this dream. So, in this geometric form, there's a hexagon, which is a six-sided shape as the base. So that is representing the center, which is like the core of who you are, that which represents your greatest achievement when you are expressing your truest nature. The fact that the hexagon is the base of this dream crystal makes sense because it shows up in nature as a signature of efficiency and balance. You see it in hexagonal structures like honeycombs and snowflakes. It appears in biology through six-legged insects. And even at the atomic level, carbon, the basis of life, is built around six protons, six electrons, and six neutrons, usually. So mathematically, it's a perfect number, really, representing equilibrium. So it represents all that is stable, efficient, and fundamentally supportive of life. It's also numerically about balance, where the six segments in half are three and three. So that brings me to triangles. Now, this idea of stability and balance is amplified when you see that each segment of the hexagon creates a triangle, which is considered one of the strongest geometric shapes. Here's the other thing, it's a bipyramid, so above and below the base are pyramids, which really makes this dream about way more than just me because it brings in the as above, so below maxim, which for this dream reflects the principle of correspondence, that the universe operates on fractals or repeating patterns. And what happens in the heavens is reflected in nature. So, this as above, so below brings into the dream the idea of 5D, the spiritual realm. And it clearly focuses in on the balance part of this idea, where opposing realms like spiritual versus material or 5D versus 3D are being called to come into harmony. And that's the only sand in the oyster moment in this dream. The lower half of the crystal is not the same size as the upper part. So I needed to shift my focus not on my spiritual walk, but on my earthly walk, all the grand reasons why I even exist in the physical. And that's opening a whole other can of worms in itself. Now, this dream was back several years ago, but the idea was that my imbalance lied at the fact that I didn't value my earth mission the way I valued my interaction with the higher realms. And that's what it's like for many of us who have come in touch with our spiritual or esoteric gifts. We start to think that the physical world isn't really that valuable. And even just coming from the viewpoint of when I was heavy into math and physics, which was when I had this dream, we are just a bag of bones, just a water bag, as one of my colleagues would say. And that's because we're mostly water and we can literally cause nuclear material to go critical just by standing close to it. Look it up, it's true. I simplified that, but either way, if that's how we think, we would be ill-advised about that because look at the bigger part of that famous Hermetic maxim. As above, so below, as within, so without. That means the dream encourages us all to keep developing our physical experience by improving our internal landscape, like doing shadow work. So, changing our thoughts by dissolving our limiting beliefs and programming. And at the time of this dream, I was working on a new iteration of my birth wound work, which is an amazing inner journey that focuses right on the core mission and helps to release all the fluff we've built around it that keeps us from knowing ourselves so deeply. The dream shows another dimension, the fourth dimension. Why do you care about 4D? For technology, funny enough, 4D is behind every ultrasound. And what do we do with that? We look at fetuses. We get a view into the womb. I just think that's a cool correlation between what I just said about the birth wound. But also, you care about it because at the beginning of this video, I said that looking into Tesla's assertion of 369 was that it was a bridge between science and consciousness. And that's exactly what it is. It adds in the aspect of time, not in a linear sense, but as a web of simultaneous possibilities. That is where time is fluid and we can access memories, emotions, fears, auras, portals, entities, you name it, all the unseen. So, okay, the dream shows a 3D crystal. That's easy to see. But do you see the 4D here? I won't take away any points if you didn't see it. That's because the world we see around us seems to have 3D space dimensions. This is physics as we know it. As humans, we can't visualize a 4D spatial dimension, so mathematicians have used 3D analogies to help explain it, like talking about how a 3D object creates a shadow of a 4D object. Wasn't there a shadow mentioned in my dream? So that brings me to my last point, or vertex, about the dream, the famous idea attributed to Hermes Trismegistus in the Emerald Tablet, which I also find his name super ironic because it has tris, meaning 3 times. Anyway, the whole phrase is this: as above, so below, as within, so without, as the universe, so the soul. And that piece implies that the soul is the internal awareness. And when you go within, it reveals universal truths. Phew, let's take a breath. From the perspective of a physicist, none of this, especially fractals, is trivial. As a whole, it suggests that structure, information, and organization persist even when the substance appears to disappear. And when you map this back to the simplest form, 369, you see something so much bigger. You're seeing a whole other piece that you never even knew was part of your reality. Look, you don't have to be a physicist or a mathematician. The key to the universe is available to all of us within, it's without, it's above, it's below. Keep it simple, as my favorite energy worker and actually one of my favorite people of all time, Raymond Grace, says. Don't add more complication to something that is not complicated. And he also said that there are no limits. The only limits are the ones that we choose to accept. And that, my friends, is why calculus is wrong, because it has limits. But bum. So, how can you actually work with what you know now about 369? Tesla himself was obsessed with frequency and vibration. He once said that to understand the universe, you should think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So, what if 3, 6, and 9 aren't just quantities, but markers of frequency relationships? Taking all the number and geometry relationships that we talked about, what stands out about the unseen, like frequency, is that your brain is capable of recognizing these patterns, but only if it's in the right state. Otherwise, you just miss them completely. And we know these patterns are real, just like 4D and beyond, even though we can't always see it. And this is where my background in physics and my work with dreams and remote viewing started to converge. Your brain operates at different frequencies depending on your state of consciousness. Most of the time, you're in beta waves. That's thinking, analyzing, and problem solving. It's useful, but it's noisy. You're generating signals, not receiving them. When you drop into alpha waves around 8 to 12 hertz, something shifts. Alpha is that bridge state. Wow, it's all coming together here, right? It's where your conscious mind relaxes and your subconscious becomes accessible. It's the state you're in when you're first awake, when you're deeply relaxed, when you're daydreaming. And it's also the exact state I would intentionally move into before remote viewing. And this brings me to another dream I had because it showed me exactly how this part works. In the dream, I was upstairs speaking to a manager, which is about accessing higher levels of myself. And I told him I had picked up on a signal that he broadcasted. I said it was 1 e to the negative 5. In the dream, I understood what that represented. It wasn't just any number, it was 10 hertz. Alpha. Now in the dream, I'm downstairs, which means I shifted my awareness now to earth energy. And I said that there was a second signal that I had picked up on, something that had to do with Tesla, but I hesitated to trust it. Like I could perceive it, but I wasn't fully on board with the information it carried yet. And the manager said that he had indeed sent two signals. Is this dream sounding a lot like the message in the other dream, the Bipyramid? Then the scene shifted. I was on my porch going through old boxed items that I hadn't touched in years, dusting them off and realizing I needed to start using them again. What do you think this dream means? Yeah, it's time to dive into that 4D space. It was precisely pointing out that the signal was 10 hertz. That's 1e negative 5, the exact center of alpha brainwaves. And I could only communicate with that level of information it carried when I was in that state, not beta, not theta, but alpha. And the fact that there were two signals showed me how you receive what you're tuned for. The Tesla signal felt distorted because my physical system hadn't come into coherence with it yet. And that final scene where I was dusting off old items means that when you access these states, when your brain starts operating in alpha more consistently, you're not learning something new. You're actually remembering how to use something here on Earth that you already had access to on the other side. So let me bring this full circle. Tesla understood that reality operates on frequencies. Everything vibrates, everything has a resonance. And 3, 6, and 9 appear to be fundamental to how those frequencies organize themselves. But you can't access that just by thinking about it because thinking happens in beta, and beta is too noisy, too active. You have to drop into alpha, the receiving state. That's when your brain synchronizes with the Schumann resonance, the frequency of the earth, or what some people call the heartbeat of the earth. And when you get to that place, that's when pattern recognition becomes effortless on a soul level. That's when you stop forcing insight, intuition, and higher consciousness, and you start receiving it. And here's what's beautiful. This isn't some advanced spiritual technique that takes years to master. You already move yourself into different frequencies natural, like I talked about earlier, when you wake up, when you're deeply relaxed, when you're dreaming. Your brain already knows how to do this. It's just been drowned out by constant beta stimulation. So if you want access to what Tesla was pointing to, you don't need to understand complex equations. You just need to hear the signal that is already being broadcast. The patterns are there, the frequency is there. And the only question is, are you in the state where you can receive it? So here's what that means practically and how this will help you in real life. People who start accessing these deeper pattern recognition in their work, their relationships, creative projects, or their understanding of reality itself are people who prioritize alpha states and pay attention to their dreams because dreams can show you what brain waves you're in. And a quick and dirty method to get you into alpha is listen to binaural beats with headphones that feature it. I get all my frequency mixes from Atomic Cat. She'll make your own personal mixes too. In fact, all my inner journeys I created for opening your sixth senses, gifts, and third eyes are built around different mixes of frequencies. Oh, and I have several already on my meditations playlist. I'll link to one of them at the end of this video. So while you're in that state, notice when insights come. Those moments show your brain is synchronizing with a different frequency. And the more you honor that state, the more access you get. That's the real secret Tesla was pointing at, not the numbers themselves, but the consciousness state required to perceive the patterns they represent. If you've been having dreams that feel significant, especially dreams with numbers, frequencies, shapes, or signals you can't quite decode, let me know about it. Don't forget to join my community on School and bring your dream, for goodness sake.